Going barefoot and crazy.
You're just a long-haired hippie. Yep.
What I'm going to present here is not so much about the how-to and the obvious biomechanical benefits of spending more time barefoot, but more about recognising a consciousness, all the aspects to the validity of what are the accepted truths and norms in our lives.
We take a lot of time to consider our thoughts, our lives, and when you look back at them, and when you really try and look back on a history and past your life, and you honestly look at it and say, was it worthwhile? Was I my best? Okay, you were the best you could be at that given time. And
if you are mentioning to people about running barefoot or other barefoot activities, I'm sure you would see the head shake and the eyes roll with comments like, oh no, you're going barefoot and crazy. Yet barefoot and unshod activities are the species-specific predisposition to being a runner before footwear was invented. This is somewhat obvious from the anatomy of the body we get around in, that the shape of the foot arch and the musculature of our bipedal locomotion function are designed as natural springs. Just as much as a set of shoes can atrophy the very survival mechanisms given to us by our maker, so does the lack of consciousness enable an unquestioned adherence to a set of beliefs and mindset that are part of an imprinted cultural and societal conditioning. It is not only the aspects of what is physically gained by taking off your shoes, but also what is gained by putting on a consciousness of alternate thinking.
Hey, I'll be the first one to admit that as you get older, hills like this becoming increasingly harder and harder. But you know, when you get to look at views like that, you know, mate, if I get too old, or if I get that age where it just becomes too fucking hard to get out there and to say, fuck it, I'm going, it'll be a sad day for me. It'll be a sad day for sure.
All accepted cultural and consumer-driven activities set societal thinking patterns have the capacity to restrict and to cripple us as to our opportunities that enable us to live a fulfilled life from our own self-sovereignty. By going barefoot, it is an opportunity to take off another layer of commerce-led consumption of goods and services that only fuel a disconnect with the very earth that sustains us all.
And as life went on, you were given certain obstacles to clear, and you were given certain elements to overcome, and that's what brings you into the person that you are today. And this is the moments that when you are able to have enough inquiry into your life to look back and say, am I answering the call to being the best that I can be? That's when all of a sudden you're living in the present moment, because you are accessing the past and say, hey, look, I didn't do it well then. You know what you want in the future, or you have seen things that were future tense when you were past tense and going, oh, I made that decision back then, and now future tense, or the present where I am now, says, hey, I could have done better.
You can start to understand the values and principles of a plant-based nutrition when you experience the need for a shift of consciousness from a steak and eggs nutrition regime if brought about through an illness or a voice of wisdom from another. So too, is there the need for a shift of consciousness to take place for a person to understand the balance of physical health, lifestyle and nutritional choices that are seen as alternate?
So, and this is talking from my perspective, where, look, I was born in the 50s, you know, and right up until now, you know, Australia has had a golden run, you know, so, you know, think really positive that you've had a fucking good life if you've lived in Australia, you know. So
are compassionate and sustainable, whereas the choices that are the accepted norm are neither. The very act of going barefoot and crazy can be a thin edge of the wedge in a person's shift to consciousness, enabling questioning of the consumption of goods and services which are foisted on us as part of a debt-driven consumer society, thereby cultivating the need.
So, and it's not about material possessions, what you've got now. It's about how you're showing up for the world now that needs somebody to stand up and say, hey, young man of the future, you have to start standing up and not being some wimpy, pansy-ass prodigates of the state. That you are now learning that you can't think for yourself. You must have an independence, okay? Because I tell you what, this whole societal that we're looking at is not going to stay here forever. And the more that the young coming up are not taking the role of leadership and manlyship that is here today being threatened, really is threatened. I'm not talking about macho, beer drinking, beer swilling, pig hunting men.
To examine the why and validity of accepted practices and social norms. This goes for so many things in the arena of human interaction. Unless you consciously develop a strong practice of self-sovereignty, you will be subjected to influences that seek to imprint on you a set of values and practices that you did not take on consciously. When we take time to examine the consciousness of our actions and bring them to an absolute mindfulness, it allows us to examine ownership of them, to question.
I can take care of this, I can do this, I'm responsible for myself, okay? I'm not looking to blame somebody else for the situations we're in the moment, okay? So that's where I'm coming from today. Hey, men of today, young men of today, older men of today, let's be a voice.
Are these things I believe real? Or am I just believing what I have been told as a statement of truth? Or am I just accepting that what has been repeated so many times that has become a truth? This consciousness is what is required to develop a true measure of self-sovereignty in your decision making.
What is there with this identity politics? What is with this agenda-specific languaging? Where are the real issues being addressed? This is just smoke and mirrors to things that are happening in the society now. Why is the financial sector all being bled to the top? Why are we not being angry about the amount of control and pesticides and lack of sovereignty that you're given even in Australia? You think you've got some self-sovereignty, but you try and buck the system, and even now you're going to find it's really hard, okay?
Anytime you call to awareness and action that has the ability to reconnect to the earth and enhance the long-term viability of our interaction with it, consuming less and caretaking more, it is a great move forward. Allowing yourself to go barefoot, whether you run or walk, is one of the most basic and easy things you can do to reconnect yourself to a world that is presented to us through a veneer of fast foods, convenient shopping, climbing the corporate ladder, and participating in the treadmill of commercialism, which has no bearing on true wealth, health, or happiness.
You're going to find it's really hard, okay? And it'll just get worse. So men of today, start taking responsibility. Yeah? Good on ya.